This is Fred Beck from Fred Beck Fighting. I'm joined over Zoom by Donagh Corby. Donagh, it's good to catch up with you. How are you?
It's phenomenal to catch up with you, my friend. Um, yeah, it's great to hear from you. Sorry, I'm just getting my setup working here so I can hear you a bit better. But it's great to talk to you, bro. What's good? What's good on your end? Do you like the Creator Clash?
I thought it was really good. Were you there at the Creator Clash?
No, I wasn't there. I was thinking of going, but just a lot of traveling coming up, so I missed that one. I think I'm gonna miss this weekend too. But after that, it's all guns a blazing. I'll be at everything.
So you're missing the Creator Clash, Kingpin, Misfits, all three of them in about a week,
Very
in two
poor.
weeks' time.
Very poor. I was trying to wrangle a way to go to all three, but now it turns out I'm not going to go to any of them. So these things happen, you know. Poor on my part, but I'll be back. I'll be back. And Ben Davies is going to do a great job with Kingpin this weekend.
Who's that?
He's my colleague. There's Ben and Harry and myself, and then our editor is Martin, and that's like the little mirror fighting team. And I might go. I might go on Saturday. Like if I what it is at the moment is the flight is like just over cheap enough where I would just throw it away. Like,
Hmm.
like if it was like 20 quid, I'd be like, I'll just buy the flight. And if I go, I go. But it's like a little bit more than that. And I'm like, I can't really just like throw this away if I don't go. But yeah, I'll probably end up being there. I get terrible FOMO, so I'll probably end up going.
Yeah, okay. If you get a FOMO, then definitely will be there. Can you talk about the fights? Being a reporter yourself, obviously people watch this want to know what you do. You're a reporter and you're heavily involved in kind of the influencer YouTube boxing
Mhm.
scene. Can you give predictions? Can you give breakdowns, or just be careful, kind of like myself, how you phrase your words?
Yeah, look, I can give breakdowns. I mean, I give sometimes predictions. I'm not like really hardcore, but like I know that you and Ariel are both like you guys do not do predictions ever. I guess I can risk a couple of predictions here and there, but I understand that it offends people.
Yeah, yeah, it does, especially when there's so few fighters in the scene, so you don't want to be
Yeah,
burning too many. I haven't actually burnt a single bridge yet in the scene yet.
must be
I got to
nice.
touch wood. um. I'm sure that will come at some point. But this event, how do you see it playing out in terms of numbers, ticket sales, pay-per-view buys? How do you see it going?
We're talking Kingpin on Saturday night. I think
Yes.
it's
Oh yeah, sorry, Kingpin is Saturday night. Yeah.
yeah, I think it's going to be a fascinating event. I would think the pay-per-view will be quite big based on Whinderson's popularity. I would think he'll drive a lot of it. Obviously, there's a lot of interest in McBroom and Gibb as well. Um, that fight's kind of a tough sell though because it wasn't that long ago that we saw it, and I know that McBroom did drop him, but it wasn't like the closest fight in the world. I mean, McBroom went down 5 times, Gibb went down once in the first, but it's kind of a tough sell of a fight, and I think that like initially everyone was like, "Oh, that's a sick draw" because we get that fight immediately, but it would have been a sicker draw for them to be like way on the other side of the bracket, so that they could each win two, and then in the big show at the end of the summer fight each other. But it's still a massive fight. There's still a lot of interest. Looks like the ticket sales are. I would imagine it will be full on the night with the way that the ticket sales are going. And I would think the pay per view will surprise people. I think it'll be a big pay per view seller because there's going to be a lot of people in Brazil who buy to watch Whindersson Nunes.
Mm. But Brazil's market,
Mm-hmm.
Brazil is the most heavily the country of Brazil. That's the biggest country in the world that streams fights, illegally streams fights.
Yeah.
Um, and Brazil is probably not the richest country in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So targeting Brazil as your main target audience, is that not a huge risk?
No, of course. I think that their target audience should be the UK and America. And I know like I'm not saying the Gibb and McBroom aren't big draws, or even El Brook has a huge following. There's a lot of people involved. I know that Barbie has a big following. Like all of these people, have their followings. But yeah, maybe I don't know how many people are going to buy a pay per view in Brazil necessarily. It's a good point actually. It's well made. But and I know that a lot of like even when Jake fought Anderson Silva, they just decided to do it on regular TV over there because it meant that they would get like millions of viewers as opposed to like people illegally streaming. So it's tough one to tell. I mean, that's a good point you make there about the illegal streaming, and that's going to be an issue for this event. They've generally been pretty good, Kingpin or Showstar before that, with all of that stuff. But look, I do think this event will be a big success. Just like all these Misfits events have been big successes up to this point.
Do you think the event does over 300,000 pay-per-view buys?
I mean, 300,000 pay per views is a lot, bro. Like that puts you in the range of like uh you know Javante Davis and people like that. Like I mean, it'd be more than the average Javante Davis fight. Obviously, the one on Saturday night against Garcia is going to be a lot bigger than that. But that would put you in the Jake Paul, KSI, Davis range. I don't know if they're going to be quite there. I don't know what their threshold is, like what they need for the show to break even. But yeah, I think look, maybe 300,000 buys is possible, but I think that it's a tough sell. I mean, that puts you right in there with Garcia and Davis. I mean, that's going to be way bigger than 300,000, but the average kind of Tank Davis fight does in that region. The average Jake Paul fight before Tommy was doing around that. KSI has had fights that did a little bit less, a little bit more. So, that's a tough sell, but they can do it if they give it the right push this week, and a lot of interesting stuff happens, and people tend to buy late for these shows. So let's see how that push goes.
I think it'll do all right, just because when I got sent a media sheet, or I saw someone else's media sheet, they're doing a face-off for each fighter, each fight. It's not just the main event, they're doing a face-off.
Yeah.
For a face-off, I mean, like a face-to-face where someone, they're sitting around a table, they're talking trash to each other. And so the Blueface and Matthews, that'd be a big draw. Give McBroom. I think give McBroom, Blueface is Ed Matthews, Jarvis, Zanetti, they're all huge fights. The women's fights, maybe not so, but Elbrook, I guess, is a big draw as well. Her sister's boxing, so that could be a big one as well. But for the main event, give McBroom. How do you see that one playing out, considering what happened last time with McBroom?
Yeah, I mean, look, like Austin has shown his footage that says he was not in great shape. I guarantee you, Gibb did not go in there fresh. I guarantee he did not have, like, I don't know this like from an insider perspective, but I just know that he had so much going on in the buildup. Remember, the whole fight was moved for 2 months because he was kind of coming and going and didn't know if the brain scan was going to work out and all of that stuff. So Gibb was going through it as well in the build-up to that fight, mentally, I would think, as well. I mean, you spoke to him beforehand. He didn't really do much media before it, but he did a good sit down with you. And I got the impression that he was like absolutely, frothing at the mouth, like chomping at the bit to go. And yeah, so it'll be interesting to see now that they've both had like the requisite amount of time to train. They're both fit. They're both ready for it. Will it be any different? I don't know that this amount of time, September to April, is long enough to kind of like there was a pretty monster gap by the end of that fight. Like 5 knockdowns is no joke. I don't know if Austin has had the time to bridge that, but it's definitely, I mean, it was exciting for as long as it lasted last time out. So it'll be, I would think it'll be just as exciting, if not more, this time around.
You could find it be more competitive this time around. Obviously, 5 3-minute rounds is a lot, but
Austin's had a lot how about, I wonder as well how Austin will do as just like a talent. I wonder if that'll help him or if it'll hurt him, because it's going to be a bigger crowd, smaller venue, so both of those, so it'll be way more intense than that. But he's not running the whole thing. He hasn't got all the stresses of everything else that goes on throughout the fight week this time, which is the first time for him as a fighter. So I wonder if that will, if that'll benefit him and let him just completely focus on what he has to do to give.
But do you think Austin is really organizing it? Surely there's anyone else organizing it, just under his name.
Sure, but he's definitely like heavily involved, and he was involved a lot in the promotion and everything. And I think that not having any of those stresses and just being like a guy that's hired by Kingpin, I think could benefit him. We'll see on Saturday night, but I think it's definitely a really, I mean, it's one of the better fights in influencer boxing. I mean, they could do that one 10 more times, and I think people would still be interested.
Yeah, that's a good point about Austin not being stressed. I'll ask him that in fight week. It'd be interesting to see what he says. But I see all the WWE stuff behind you. Logan Paul just signed his new contract. Will that be for about 1 year of a contract? Will be a 2-year contract? How long will that contract be for?
Yeah, I think it's another 2 year.
2 years.
The thing with wrestling, that's what I've heard. But I think the thing with wrestling that's so crazy is like they don't love to put it out there how long a contract is, because I don't know that it's like, I think that it's an old school, because wrestling's like a carny type thing. So they don't love for like a contract end date to be known, because that allows like AEW to know that Logan's available, or it allows them to like prepare their bid for Logan. So I'm not sure exactly how long, but what I had heard was, yeah, he did the initial. I think he had a deal. I think it was something to do with the relationship with Fox at the time when he first came in, that he did the year, and I think they're pretty happy with him. So what I'm hearing is 2 years, but I could be wrong on that. That's not like steadfast from any really great sources or anything.
So does that postpone his next boxing fight then?
No, I think what I've heard is that perhaps WWE might be involved in his next boxing fight. That's the word on the street, is that there's interest from them. I don't know if that's changed since they were brought out by Endeavor, but what I've heard is that perhaps like his next fight wouldn't necessarily be on Misfits. It could be, because him and KSI on the same card, would be like a monster, huge event, massive, 700,000 pay-per-views
Well, but
guaranteed
it
if
was
they
meant
both
to be
fall
like
off.
that on the last January card, and that January card was
Sure.
meant to be in America.
Yeah, I mean it would have been a sick event. It would have been, I think, were they saying that at the time it was going to be JJ and Woodley and then Logan and Dylan,
Mm.
which would have been, I mean, that would have been a monster card. That would have done 700,000 pay per views easily, 800,000, something like that. But you know, he got the injury, and I think that I mean, he's always had injury issues though, so I'll believe that he's fighting when I get a press release sent to me saying Logan Paul's signed a contract and he's fighting someone.
Yeah, that's a good way to judge it. Judge it by a year. But if you're self-done,
Mhm.
any other events coming up for you that you're covering, UFC, boxing, or you just sticking to more of the influencer stuff or wrestling?
Bro, I'm covering everything. I love influencer boxing. That's kind of my favorite beat at the moment. But I'm things are about to go really crazy. That's why I'm still not 100% sure about Kingpin, is because I've got this weekend. I've kind of got off, and then after that, I don't have a weekend off until July. Just going around covering everything. There's going to be Cage Warriors in Dublin, UFC in Newark, New Jersey, KSI's fight then the week after that, Katie Taylor the week after that, Michael Conlon in Belfast the week after that, then Kingpin again pretty quickly June 3rd in Dublin. Are you coming over to Dublin for that?
Yes, I'll be there.
Yes, it's gonna be a sick week. That fight week in Dublin is gonna be crazy. So Kingpin then, and then I go over to Atlanta for PFL, and I think I'm gonna swing by New York for Josh Taylor's fight. I think if that fight, the Spence and Crawford fight happens, I might go to that. Jason Quigley's fight. So I don't have a weekend off until July. So I might take this weekend, but yeah, lots of crazy stuff, lots of boxing, major MMA, and of course influencer boxing. My favorite all time, you know, my favorite beat to cover is influencer boxing for sure.
AEW is coming over. They got a show in
Mm.
Wembley Stadium in August. It's the day after KSI's fight. You gonna do anything over that? Cover any of those interviews?
Yeah, I think I'll probably mix those two together. I don't know if JJ's going to fight in Wembley or the O2 yet, but I think that it's going to be, you know, a massive, massive week. I might do. I'm sure that Mams will probably integrate in some way so that like he'll allow people to go to, like, if there's an AEW Rampage on the Friday, he'll make sure that the KSI thing is during the day or something. Like like Mams is a clever guy. And Mams actually gets a lot of like abuse online and stuff, but he's really, really with it on that side of things. Like he knew that it would be ill advised to put this New Orleans card on Saturday night because, you know, you've got Tank and Garcia and you've got Kingpin. So he knew it was not wise and he moved it to the Friday. There's another couple of shows. So he's a very, very clever guy and he will allow for a fun week. So hopefully I'll be in London anyway for what may be KSI's uh third fight of the year. That's not confirmed 100%, but I know
Mm.
they have a London show that day. And yeah, I think I'll probably be kind of going to everything, and I'll definitely stick around for AEW the following night. What about you? Will you stick around?
Well, I'd like to go to the AEW show, but is
Yeah,
that media friendly or is there no media
yeah.
allowed?
No, they have big media. They have a big press conference afterwards with the backdrop and everything. So yeah, well you could definitely you would definitely be more than welcome there. They would absolutely love to have you. I know you're the kind of guy that AEW would want to have around.
Oh wow, okay. How do I get into that?
We'll talk about it off air, but yeah,
Okay.
I'll send you the emails and stuff.
Sweet, that sounds pretty good. Just one last thing. Mams has said quite a few times the winner of this Kingpin tournament has got a chance to fight KSI. If Gibb is the winner, how do you think he gets along with JJ?
Oh wow. Couple of big ifs there. If Gibb wins, I don't know that he's going to necessarily, but if he does, he obviously knows JJ from right when they started, and you know, the pressure from both guys would be brilliant. I think it would actually look like two guys who know how to box. The two guys who know how to box version of what AB and Dad was like on Saturday night. Like if those two were really high level, that's what I think Gibb versus KSI. Just two guys who just go in there and swing for the fences, and it would be power versus power. I think KSI's power would probably win out over Gibbs just based on what we've seen. I mean, he's like a considerably more powerful fighter, but I think the Gibb is certainly proven. You know, he put Austin down a couple of times, and yeah, I think it would be really fascinating. I think it wouldn't last very long, but it would be one of the craziest, shortest influencer fights. It would be so much fun, and I think look, it's one of those fights where Gibb could win, but also just as easily KSI could win. It would come down to like who lands the big shot because they're both swinging for the fences. So either man could, but I would have to think you'd favor JJ there, just with the size and everything.
I guess so. I guess KSI would be the favorite, but then again, it depends how Gibb performs in this tournament. If he wipes everyone
Yeah.
out first round, then maybe people will be picking Gibb to win. I guess they're so
Well,
excited in that way.
the issue as
Mams
well.
tried. Well, Mams tried. Actually, I don't mention this, but Mams did try and make the Gibb KSI fight, but the crowd weren't really feeling it.
Yeah, it's not a. It's like I think that people really really like Gibb and people love JJ despite everything that's happened the last few weeks. He's one of the most beloved YouTubers. Like for example, Jake Paul is just as big as JJ, Logan Paul just as big as JJ, but Jake Paul and Logan have a lot of haters. JJ doesn't have as many people who are like, oh, I want to see KSI lose. You know, I very rarely hear, oh, I'd love to see KSI get knocked out. But people want to see Jake get knocked out all the time. They want to see Logan get knocked out. I just don't hear it as much. And I think that actually will benefit JJ if he ever does lose one. And it appears that in combat sports, everyone loses one, at every level. And I think that it will benefit JJ a lot because, people support him and people like Gibb too in the same way. And, Gibb didn't really lose much from getting absolutely pasted, like worst case scenario by Jake. He just got destroyed, but he didn't lose almost any, momentum in the grand scheme of things because COVID happened and everything. So yeah, I think that it's just one of those fights that like it would be hard to sell because nobody wants either guy to lose. But I think it would be really I also think that the Kingpin tournament winner, it's a tough one because do you follow PFL at all?
No, not particularly.
Yeah, so PFL is like this tournament and it runs from April through to November. And I think they do 4 fights. They do 2 group stage fights, then a semifinal and a final. So if you win, you've done 4 fights between April and November, and the prize is $1 million, and fighters are getting paid, well, throughout that. And the PFL, like I talked to the fighters in that, and they're like, it's the toughest thing. It's so difficult to like, and this tournament is really small. This Kingpin one, and regardless whether you win or lose, you're doing 3 fights by August. So yeah, I think the winner of the Kingpin tournament is going to need a break. I don't think they're going to be rushing into a fight with KSI. And KSI, it appears, is still running towards hopefully fighting Jake. I mean, December would be great, maybe the start of next year. But I think that the Kingpin winner might need a break after 3 fights.
Yeah, you're right. It's a shame. Maybe they could do it in September. Maybe KSI could fight on Ibiza, but it makes sense to put them in London. So we'll have to see.
Yeah.
We'll have to see that. Donagh, I do appreciate you coming on. Social media wise,
Thank you.
Where can people find you?
Thank you very much, Fred, for having me. It's at Donagh Corby _ on Twitter, at Donagh Corby on Instagram, and then Mirror Fighting is all the stuff. Mirror Fighting on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, everything. Just go find it and follow our team because we're doing some good stuff. We're trying to be as good as you, Fred. We're not quite there yet, but we'll get to your level eventually.
Hell yeah. Best thing. Awesome. I'll put your Twitter link in the description because Twitter's always best for media. But thanks, Donagh. I do appreciate you.
Thanks so much for having me, brother.